I believe the series, Beneath It All in the African American Community, is important. And I'm so grateful that Intake decided that, this was the platform that they wanted to present to the world. It's because we tend to believe that things start where we start. And it doesn't. There's a long history behind us. So many people have suffered through whatever we think we're suffering through now. So many people that look like us, people of color, have suffered through so much more. And the legacy is deep, it's long, it's full of pain. And it really is important for us to begin to dissect it for ourselves. Why? Because the pain is full of confusion, and it's full of, it's really our search to try to figure out what is going on in the world. Where do we stand? What's our relevance? What do we contribute to it? How do we contribute? How do we position ourselves? What information? I think, as for myself, many African Americans, the history is so overwhelming to learn and to understand. Do I even bother trying to figure it out? And the answer is a resounding yes. The platform that we have, and there'll be many, and there'll be many more to come. This particular platform, I wanted to be a part of because I knew that I could speak openly, honestly, about myself, about what I've experienced as a professional, as an African-American professional in mental health, because it was what I experienced that jettisoned me into this field to begin with. It wasn't, so many African-American social workers say, I wanted to help people, I wanted to be there. And then that's noble gestures, but that wasn't my narrative. I wanted to advocate for people. It was about social justice for me. Why? Because a white professor said to me one day, the reason why the welfare centers were so drab and poorly kept was so that it would deter us from coming in and seeking help, financial help that we needed. And I was astounded by the statement, because I said, and people do this deliberately, like openly, like it's okay to do that, and people know this. And she said, yes, it's designed that way. There's so many things that's designed to keep people of color from advancing, that it's hard to begin pulling everything apart. But what was very clear to me with that statement was, but if we are all equipped, if we all have the information, if we all feel prepared to speak from our truth, then we can tackle it. But not just if a few of us are speaking. It has to be many of us speaking. So of course, Intake, loved the title from the first time I heard it. It's what you take in that really determines who you are and the way you see the world. It's from your perception that you begin engaging in the world. And that was very true for me. It's the way that I engaged, the way I was experiencing it, the way that my family experienced it, is the way that I engaged the world. It set my expectations. And it's the way that, I had certain preconceived notions that I couldn't do certain things based on the fact that I was simply Black. There was no other reason for it. It's because that's the narrative that I was told, either by school, either by the community I was in, either within my family, in terms of setting low bars so you can achieve them, rather than these high, outrageous bars that are achievable. But no, you don't set it high, because of course the disappointment is going to, stifle you. But it stifles you when you don't reach. I don't think we understand that. And going into the field of social work and beginning my mental health journey in terms of professional training, and with the plan to be a clinical social worker, yes, absolutely. Do I support this, believe this? We have to continue talking, continue to educate. Every conversation we have, we learn more. That is how we'll get we'll get the information that we feel we don't have. It's really about having a conversation, and you'll be surprised how much you'll learn, gain, grow, and be able to share more and stir the pot. You know, the one thing I do agree with Candace Owens is that open the conversation. So we can't be afraid to have the conversations, even if we don't agree with the topic of the subject. I wanted to be a part of this particular series as an African American professional because I wanted to be part of the conversation. I do know that it takes us all to join in and participate in the conversation. I saw it as an opportunity that presented itself. I believe it was ordained. I certainly believe God had a lot to do with opening those doors, because these are thoughts that I have in my mind, you know, in my head all the time, in my heart. I read, I watch television, I have these conversations, and I wasn't talking. I was talking to my small inner group, but I wasn't really talking openly. I wasn't, taking the opportunity to create a platform to have these conversations. And I sit in a position where I can. You know, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I can have these conversations, but I was working in and still working a 9-to-5 jobs, just overwhelmed with, just day-to-day life. But looking at people, struggling and going through the day-to-day issues with life as well, and having conversations in the moment with them and saying, Gina, you need to continue to have these conversations, and your platform, I feel it in my spirit, is larger. You need to speak and speak openly and join your colleagues, because we as African American colleagues, as clinicians, need to come together and have a platform and speak. We typically join in on non-white platforms and contribute to, how it affects people like that looks like us. We give them the kind of window into the Black experience. But the reality is, we need to have our platform as well, to be able to speak on a grander scale about the things that affect us, because we need validation. We need to be able to say that what we're talking about is factual. It's not just opinionated, because we're asked about our opinion a lot. But I really think that it is time that we are delivering information that is rooted in research, that is rooted in facts, and that we're speaking from the point of the fact in a very sophisticated and clear manner. And that is our role as clinicians. So it was really important for me, because that's the platform that Intake gave me, to be able to have those kind of rousing discussions that were rooted in, research, that were really going to move the needle in terms of, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to tackle things. This is how we are experiencing things, because we need to be able to tell the community that looks like us that we are experts, that we know the information, that we've vetted a lot of information and we've done the research. So we know what we're talking about too. So here it is. We're here. Here's the information. What's your opinion? I'm hoping that I would ask viewers first to have an open mind. I would ask that you come, when you sit down to view Intake and to view the contents of what we're talking about, that you allow yourself to be open, allow yourself to have a clean slate, to hear the information as if you're hearing it for the first time. So it is really important that viewers understand that we are embarking upon an opportunity to reopen conversations, reopen issues, things that have been have occurred in history, and we are taking this opportunity to revisit those issues, because one of the things that I think is really important is that what we want you to know more than anything is that there's a connection. It's not fragmented, it's not disjointed. It is actually it's a connection between the past to the future. And as a participant on the panel with this particular subject, we want to connect the dots for you. We want to show you that there's a fluid connection between what was happening back then with the experiments and the way that we're treated and the way that we think and operate today. So this is what I want you to be able to see in experience, is that there is a logical progression to history. And if you believe that, and if white America can believe that for themselves, I sincerely understand why it can be difficult for someone who's white, who lives in the South, to have that statue of the Confederate statue removed, because that's part of what you understand to be your legacy. And you take pride in that, even though it's rooted in something very ugly, tragic, and inhumane. But it's part of your history. It is what you fought for. It is what the people in your lineage talk about at the dinner table. They talk about this and they take pride and they hold the flag outside. So when we come and say, no, you need to remove it, I understand you feel a way about it. But the thing that is very clear is that your history has always been told. Your history has always been known. We know why you have a problem with it, but do you really understand why people of color have a problem with it? Here's an opportunity for you to understand it, because information can help you to understand why people that are different than yourselves operate the way that they do. It's a great opportunity to be able to understand that, to be able to say, I get it, I understand, and to put your biases on the table next to your coffee, your juice, your beer, your wine, and just listen. Because why that's important is it speaks to your history. It will speak to your legacy and your future as well. This is the time where we have a collective opportunity to move society in a positive way, mankind in a positive way, or not. But what's really important that you must understand is that people of color have not always had that opportunity to have that conversation or have it consistently. There was a reason why even Malcolm X said we need to fix ourselves first before we can be in a position to have this conversation. Now, I'm not suggesting that today. I am saying, though, we're going to have these conversations concurrently all the time so that we can begin to broaden the way that we think, expand our perspective on people, because the mind, the mind is a very fragile thing. It's easy to condition yourself to see people a particular way, to see ourselves a particular way. So conversation helps you with information to begin understanding that there may be more to this dimension. It's not as one dimensional that I think. It might be 2, 3, 4, 5 dimensions to a person, to a perspective, to what influences a particular behavior. And the one thing that we are all responsible for is the way that we think individually. See, I control the way that I think. I control the way that I engage. So it is my responsibility to make sure that I'm doing it with information, to make sure that I am doing it with current information. I'm doing it in a compassionate and open way. When I teach doctors behavioral health skills and they don't look like me, I allow them to say, listen, there's nothing you can say about a person of color that will offend me, because it's important for me to understand how it is you think, what it is you feel, what your experience has been, your influences, so that I can put context to it in hopes for you expanding the way that you see people like me, people that look like me. That's really my goal. And that's what is really important for viewers watching this, is that this is an opportunity for you to join in a conversation and to be honest, respectfully, but honest about what it is that you understand and see, and allow the information that you obtain to penetrate your psyche, to penetrate your soul, in terms of just being able to let it sit and marinate on it, to understand what must it be like. Because, one thing that clinicians do, we're very empathetic. What must it be like to sit in the position of another person and try to navigate the world the way that they do? What would I do if I were in their shoe? I had a very interesting experience in my graduate level education, where the professor, I was one of 3 Blacks in the classroom, or 3 people of color, let me put it that way, because not everyone in the classroom who are a person of color would identify themselves as Black. And yes, that's the reality. And I'm not assigning the term Black to them. I've accepted that I'm Black, and I'm fine with the term. But it was a class of 28 students. The professor was white, and she gave an assignment stating that you received a call from God, and God said he made a mistake with the assignment of your race. And I'm going to now change it because it was wrong. So if you're Black, you're now white. And if you're white, you're now Black. And please let me know what your fair compensation will be. And I will pay that. And I was the only person in that classroom that was visibly Black. Like I said, there were 2 other people that were people of color, but they were able to assimilate for one reason or the other. And I'm not going to get into it. It's because of their experiences, the way that they look. They did not exactly look like me. And so many of the white students in the classroom looked at me like, and I said I wanted to be a white man, because for the first time I wanted to know what it felt like not to experience anything. Racism, sexism, nothing. I wanted to know what it felt like to be able to embrace the world, to breathe in the world and know that that world is built on me, built for me, designed for me. I would love to know that. And my fair compensation would still be somewhere up of $50 million. So I can create what I want to create easily. Why work? I don't have to work hard anyway as a white man, but why work even harder? Just give me what I want so I can create everything that I need. But I would, the idea of being Black yesterday and being white today and running into a store and not have anyone look at me, or have someone not challenge me, I think that would be exciting. That would be great. I would love to be able to come and share that narrative. And there were people in the classroom who were white who said they wanted to build their own utopia. I thought that was interesting. But you also had people said, I would die. Just, there would be no compensation. I would be ready to come to you and no longer live in the flesh. So that was the range of the responses in the classroom, but it gave me, and her purpose was so that white students would understand privilege in a social work program. That's the context. That was the context. Because you're going to be working with people who look like me more than you probably will look like people that look like you. So you want to be mindful of your white privilege when you're working with other people. And that was the goal of the lesson. But it taught me personally, and this is why it's so important for the audience, is that this is your opportunity. This is your absolute opportunity to understand what has impacted people of color from the beginning of time here in this U.S. and prior to that, understanding how it connects today, because this is, people refute and say it doesn't matter. It doesn't connect. It does. Here's your opportunity to learn how it does. And then hopefully it will change your life for the better.
If you're a professional who would like to be on the show, or an individual who has struggled with mental health and would like to be a guest, email us at info@intake.tv.
Follow us on all of our social media platforms.
Intake Talk Show, making mental health a priority by changing the way the world views it. To learn more about Intake or one of our guests, visit our website at intake.tv.